Show with me, your host, Sophia. And today, my guest is Pascale, and I should have asked her how to pronounce her last name before I started. So we'll just start with Pascale, and then she will go ahead and tell you how to pronounce her last name. She's a transformational coach, retreat leader, and author who empowers women to embody their soul's true calling. After leaving behind a traditional life in her late 50s to travel the world, she continues to guide women to release fear and conditioning, trust their inner wisdom, and create transformation from the inside out. She is the author of the newly released book, She Travels: Real Stories of Women Transformed Through Solo Travel, featuring her own journeys as well as the stories of 10 courageous women. Welcome, Pascale, and please tell us, how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Landriault. Actually, if you want me to pronounce it the original way, the French way is Landriault. So Pascale Landriault, and yes, but Landriault is maybe easy to say.
And I almost went there, but trust me, I butcher so many people's last names that this time I thought, starting here, I'm just going to go ahead and ask.
It is not an easy one. Even French people don't pronounce it right because it's spelled differently from how it's pronounced. So no worries at all.
Okay, so in your bio, you said that you started solo travel in your late 50s. So can you tell us like how you came to that decision and, maybe what led up to it?
Yes. So, there's not a traumatic event that happened like, a divorce or something that had happened way before. So I was just at a point in my life where I just needed change. I just needed change from the routine. And I was at a point where I had a coaching business and it was organically going online. So, people were, preferring to do video calls instead of being stuck in traffic, coming downtown to the office and all of that. And I have two sons, and the eldest one had moved out, and the youngest one was just about to move out. And so I was thinking, okay, and I've always loved traveling. Traveling has always been a passion of mine. And so I thought, okay, this is good timing. I'm going to do this. And so I decided, like, I wanted to leave free. I didn't want to have to think of if I would rent my house out and, things would happen. I just wanted to leave everything behind. So I decided to sell my house, gave away my furniture to my kids, or whatever they wanted from that. And I just decided, I bought a one-way ticket to Paris. That's how I started. But my intention was to get to Bali because I had been to Bali 5 years before on a retreat. And that was my final destination. But I wanted to visit friends and family in France. And from there, I, took the train to Switzerland. And then from there, I went to Thailand, and I ended up in Bali for a longer period of time.
So did you did you actually move there for a while, or was it a visit?
Well, I had, I had, I didn't know what my next destination would be from Bali. Let's just put it that way. So, um, as I always go, I mean, I'm still doing it now, always going on a one-way ticket because I don't know how long I'll want to stay in a place. And I need to feel it out before I go to the next place, or I decide to stay much longer. I ended up staying a total of over 2 years in Bali.
Okay.
So yeah, about a year, but about a year. The first time I went to Bali, I stayed for a few months. Then I went to Sri Lanka on a volunteering opportunity. Then I went back to Montreal for Christmas. And then I went back to Bali again and then stayed for a much longer period, got, a full 1 year visa and everything. Yeah.
And I think
So
you bring up an important point about getting a visa. So when you realize that you want to stay for an extended period of time and you're already in the country, are you able to then apply for the visa there, or do you have to leave and apply for the visa after? And I'm asking this for Bali, but also maybe for some of the other countries that you've lived in.
Yeah, well, different countries have different rules, and they have different rules at different times also. Now, however I dealt with it then is not even happening now in Bali. So you really have to inform yourself. When I was there, I was able to get it on site. I may have gone out of the country, but I was able to go like to Singapore or Malaysia or something and then get back in again. So it all depends on the timing. Rules change all the time,
Mhm.
and countries have their own thing and their own way of operating. Yeah.
And
So sometimes it is sometimes, for example, I just spent 3 weeks, three months in Sicily. Well, as a Canadian, Canadians can only stay 3 months every 6 months in Europe. So that was kind of my cue. Okay, I need to get out now. So sometimes that um, decides when I leave a place.
and so here's something that I do want to bring up to the audience because I know I have audience possibly all over the world. So you have to look at what the laws are for your country in the country that you want to go to.
Yes.
Because a lot of people who live in the States assume that it's just the same for everybody, and it's not.
Mm,
So Canada and the States sometimes are very similar to the visa requirements and the length of stay, but they're not
mm,
always. So you always have to make sure that for whatever country you hold a passport for, that is the
mm.
country that you look to find out what your visa requirements are and, like how long you can stay in a country, and always make sure no matter where you're traveling that you have at least 6 months on your passport.
Absolutely. And that you have enough space, because if you have no more pages that have room for stamps, then you need to get a new passport. So sometimes the passport gets filled before it's actually expired, and so you need to get a new one. That's
And wouldn't we all be happy to have that issue?
yeah.
Because
And then
I'm always the one who I click the immigration. It's like, can you use the next blank page? Because everybody wants to stamp on the same page. So I don't. I'm always that person who wants, like, I want a new page used. But I guess if I'm traveling all over the place, some like you, it's like, go ahead and stamp wherever you want, so I don't have to get an extension passport.
And then you also have to look at transit airports sometimes, because if you have a self-transfer, then you need to go through immigration in that country. So that's that's another thing that you need to think about too.
So for people who are listening and you're not a big traveler and you haven't done your first solo trip, maybe maybe check into getting a travel agent or a travel advisor or a travel coach.
Or a travel coach, you can call me.
Yeah, because these are things we're naturally talking about it here, but these are things that you might not think about, that
Mm,
your coach or your advisor or your agent will likely think about and bring up to you. And so
mm,
that you can do your research, because the whole idea is for you to be empowered before you
mm,
leave, during your trip, and after you come back. So,
mm.
yes, it can be all done for you, but you should at least know what's happening.
Yeah. And it's nice to leave room also for unexpected things to happen, and to just like, that's one thing that travel has really taught me, is just one is resilience and patience,
Yes.
because things don't always go as planned, and it just builds your character and your confidence and everything, because you go through all these things. I was just stranded in Naples just recently, because I was leaving from Sicily to Tunisia, and we had a stopover in Naples, and we were to stay on the plane, and some people got off, but the ones that were coming to Tunisia were staying on the plane. And then they told us, oh no, the plane will not take off because there was a mechanical problem or something. So they took us to a hotel. We were stranded in a hotel in the middle of nowhere for 30 hours.
Wow.
So that was an interesting experience, but it's good to always look at the good from there. Like, there's no need to really worry, because I mean, they have a responsibility towards us, so they paid the hotel, the airline paid and they got us to the destination. So, and the experience for me was a great bonding experience with the people on the plane. It's like a lot of us didn't speak the same language, but we felt like we knew each other after those 30 hours being stranded there. So that was a very kind of nourishing experience.
Yes, I get that because I went to Morocco and then I was stranded in Morocco because on my way in, the airline that I was supposed to leave on canceled my flight. So
Mm.
when I went to readjust everything so I could get to my destination, the person who was helping, I don't know what she did with the ticket, but I got to Morocco and then when I was trying to get home, they were telling me it's like, well, there's a problem with the ticket. I'm like, why? So yes, I get that whole thing. But the airline didn't take responsibility for it. But at the same time, well, they did and they didn't.
Mm.
But long story short, I found two earth angels who were very helpful. And I actually ended up in a better situation flight-wise than I would have been if I had caught my original flight. And I did
Mm.
find a hotel that was like really close by, had a free shuttle to take me there and bring me back. So yeah, sometimes
Yeah,
you don't know what the
it,
blessing's going to be. And
exactly. And that's such a good point, because there's a gift in every situation. It's just unbelievable. And, by traveling and living through this experience, you bring that back in your everyday life also. And you become much more trusting, like trusting in the universe, trusting that everything's going to be okay, that there's angels on our path, and it's yeah, it's really wonderful.
so, okay, so now I know what had you start the solo travel and you sold everything. Then what made you decide to write the book?
Yes. Oh, so about, I guess, about at the same time I decided to leave, or it had been working like for a long time with me, that I wanted to write a book, and I wanted to write a book about how about the journey of shedding your conditioning. And, of course, I was going to tell my story in that, but also stories of many of my clients that I've helped over the years, helping them really get to their true essence and be able to, live from their soul's calling. And so I had actually started to write the book. And then, I don't know, it just kind of came to a halt. And um, one morning, I just woke up a couple of years ago, and the idea came, travel. Like, why doesn't why don't I integrate travel into that? And it just clicked, and it was like my two passions were put together, you know. So they're they're put together in my work and life also. But yeah, so that's how the traveling. Why don't I tell this story through my travel experiences? And then as that evolved, it was like, that's not just my experience, it's other women's experience too.
Mhm.
And so that's also when I decided to have the second part of the book about 10 women telling their own stories of transformation. So the whole line of the book it's called She Travels. I have it here. Real stories of women transformed through travel. So the real things is about transformation more than it's about travel.
Right.
But travel is kind of the catalyst that brings about the transformation. Well, I would say it's the catalyst, it's the mirror, you know, it's the container, and it's the medicine, you know. So it really provides that place for transformation.
So we talk about transformation and we hear the word like so often. Do you, and so and for lack of better terms, it kind of just gets muddled into then you have to start wondering, well, what actually is transformation? So, do you have a story from the book that maybe shows uh before, middle, and after so you can actually see the through line of what the transformation is?
Yes, I can tell you about, I mean, this was to me, it was one of the most profound transformations. Um, but there were many of them that were profound, but this one wasn't really intentional. Some of the other stories I have, well, I went to a Vipassana meditation and a transformation happened. I went to Egypt and visited some of the goddess temples, and transformations happened, you know, third eye opening and, you know, all sorts of things like that. But this one transformation was kind of thrown at me from the universe. It wasn't planned, or it wasn't even intentional. But I was in Sardinia, and I had just checked out of an Airbnb, and a friend from Rome had come to visit me there, and so we were heading inland. And so before we said to each other, "Why don't we stop at the beach for an hour?" And we came back to the car, and everything in the car was gone. So I was literally left with, you know, a bathing suit, a towel, a cell phone, a pair of sunglasses, a pair of shorts, and a t-shirt. That's it. So they actually left my yoga mat in the car.
Well, they
So
were yoga people, apparently.
that just triggered really deep childhood wounds. And so, you know, everything fell into place. Like my friend had a cardless withdrawal application on her phone. We were able to get out a bit of money. You know, of course, we went and reported this to the police and everything. But then I went into this huge dark night of the soul, and it just triggered wounds of betrayal, abandonment, a bunch of wounds from my childhood. And, you know, I thought I had worked on them, you know, I had grieved them before, but there was still like another deeper layer.
Hmm.
And it just helped me release those, you know, deep inner layers of, you know, grief and abandonment and betrayal wounds. So that was a big transformation. So I came out of there much lighter, and also, of course, everything fell into place. And I ended up, because my friend was only visiting for a couple of weeks, I ended up getting, money from Western Union. But of course, I couldn't get any money because my passport was gone. All my credit cards were gone. I had all my crypto keys and um, passwords. So all that money was gone. Like I was literally left with nothing.
Wow.
So apart from what I just described, the transformation, it also showed me that here I am with nothing. I mean, hardly any clothes, no belongings, and then I was thinking, this is strange because I don't really need a lesson in detachment. Like, I just went through all that detachment when I sold the house and everything else, but I guess there was still more to come. So when you have nothing to your name and you can still stand safe and strong. So it really gave me that, um, yeah, that confidence and that trust in myself, in others, because I got so much, so many angels helping me, like the Airbnb lady where I stayed. My son ended up sending money to her because I had no ID to receive the money. They were asking me for my passport and, things like that. I ended up going into a meditation center, and yeah, it just everything turned out really well. And now that kind of strength is within me, right? And I bring it with me wherever I go. Of course, I'm still vulnerable. We all are a bit, but it just really strengthened that yeah.
Well, that is really amazing because I know sometimes transformation does happen and you don't recognize it as happening. But the fact that you were able to say, okay, here are some woundings that are coming up. So, and if you don't mind sharing, because I know it's personal, right? But
Hmm.
how did you, so you recognized the wounding come up. How did you start to heal? Was the healing had to come from within, but
Hmm.
was it facilitated by the fact that you had people around you who were being helpful? Or did you just have to be by yourself for a minute and turn within and start like questioning things or talking
Yeah, well,
with yourself?
it it like the trigger was like so strong that I think the healing happened through the surrender.
Mm.
And that's something I talk a lot about in the book, is just surrendering to what is. Like, and I just had to let the feelings really come up. And so, I mean, I would just lie in bed and cry. Basically, that's, part of the part of the healing was just that.
Yeah.
And then just letting it flow through me, letting the grief flow through me.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think the biggest act of healing is surrendering. Surrendering to whatever's there and whatever's coming up. Because a lot of the things that we don't 100% live through or experience or, grieve or whatever, eh, they just get stuck inside of us, either through sickness or either through other ways or, patterns or, um, and so it was really surrendering to how I was feeling. And then just, going back there to those childhood moments that I really hadn't had a chance to grieve because, I had to be strong. I couldn't really talk about it that much either. So, yeah. Mm.
Well, that's really beautiful that what you're bringing up is really about feeling your feelings. Because I think sometimes as women, We're like, okay, yeah, this is happening. Let me put it over here because
Yeah.
I have to deal with everything by myself and I have to be strong and I have to. And so it's all the I have tos that put the feelings on the back burner that you don't get a chance to deal with. Because I'm sure in this
Mhm.
situation, you're thinking, okay, I've got to cancel all my credit cards. I've got to get an emergency passport. So all the to dos could have really put you in a space where you didn't make the transformation because you didn't take time to surrender to what you were feeling. So I
Mm.
think that's really a brave thing that you recognize that I
Mm.
have to surrender to these feelings. And yes, the other things need to be done, but I also need to feel how I feel and then recognize how it's related to my past. So then
Yeah.
you bring the past forward and deal with all of it together,
Mhm.
that you can move forward and be present.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, to me, that's the key. And I mean, that I think it applies in a bunch of different contexts. And is exactly as you said, like, we have a tendency to put our feelings aside or, you know, also like vulnerable vulnerability is courage, to be able to, well, first of all, show your own vulnerability to yourself. So, and once you can do that with yourself, and it's much easier to actually be vulnerable with others also. And I mean, I don't mean marinating, or being a victim, or I don't mean that when I say being vulnerable either. So um, it just means being in touch with being in touch with your feelings, even the ones that aren't um, fun to go through. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
And I think when we do that, we also have to do it. And I'm talking about myself. I'm global we, but myself, because I'm really the only one I can speak about, right? Uh,
Yeah.
is that being vulnerable can be difficult, but also being able to recognize it in yourself and then, as you said, not be a victim. Not,
Mm.
I'm not saying, oh, you don't cry, but then it's like you don't build a house and live in it.
Mhm.
you know. So yes, it has happened, and yes, you're dealing with it, and yes, you feel everything along the way, but with no judgment. Because I think that is something else that a lot of women judge themselves for,
Yes.
because over and over, I don't know about anybody else, but over and over, it's like you hear when people talk about women, oh, she's so emotional. And it's like,
Mm.
no, she's not really all that emotional. You're putting that on her because you feel uncomfortable, but
Mhm.
she's expressing emotion. She's not, throwing, screaming, crying. She's expressing emotion. And that does not make her so emotional, right? It just means that she's in touch with her emotion and she's expressing it.
Mhm.
But I think
Mhm.
sometimes we hear so many times she's so emotional that you want to hold back on the emotions
Mhm.
because you don't want to be perceived a certain way.
Mhm.
And I just think is really important. What we're talking about right now is being able to feel what you're going through, not with a victim mentality, like, woe is me, and spending time with why did this happen to me? Because, yeah, you're going to ask the question. But again, are
Mm.
you going to build a house and live in it? No. Yes. You're like, what, but it'd be a better, ask the better question. What is the lesson in here? And it might take you an hour, a day, a week, maybe even a month to get to that space. What is
Mm.
the lesson in here?
Yeah.
But if you ask a better question, sometimes, well, not sometimes, you always get a better answer, because what do they say? Garbage in, garbage out. So
Mm.
as we're
Mhm.
working with ourselves to come to that space of surrender.
Yeah.
We do have to ask questions because we have to reflect. But again, it's like you said, it's like you're not going to be the victim for this
Mm.
situation, and you're not going to give away all your power to the situation.
And also knowing that, it's never forever. It rains one day and it's sunny the next day. So, being able to uh, observe yourself also when you're in that situation. So you can be in it, and and you don't have to identify with it either. So you can observe yourself doing it. Okay, I'm in it, I'm living it, I'm feeling it. And at the same time, you're watching yourself and you're knowing that it's not going to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
I find when you try and repress it, as you were mentioning, it just keeps coming back and coming back and coming back, and it lasts the uncomfortable time lasts longer. If you just let it flow through, it just um yeah, the cloud moves away quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Mm,
Because then you have a visual now. It's like, here's the issue. It's in a cloud,
mm.
and the cloud's just moving away. And now you have like bright, sunny skies again.
And it's very hard to see that when you're in it,
Yeah.
but if you're able to do that, you know, it's kind of like holding two perceptive positions at the same time. Then that's ideal if you can do that. Yeah.
Because I know, well, I've even had it recently. I was on a trip and we're driving and I didn't know where I was going. I mean, I had the GPS, so I knew where I was going. I know what my destination was, but along the way, it's like, are we there yet? Are we there? The little kid in my head just kept asking, it's like, are we there? No, we still have 2 hours, you know? So I think our emotions can be like that too. As you're going through something and you're in the middle of it, every now and then you're like, are we there yet? It's like, is it over? Is it over? But I think, again, once we go through these things and we come out the other side, we come out stronger. Because
Yes,
then,
absolutely.
like, I did
Mm.
this. I got through this. I didn't let it
Yeah.
take me out.
Stronger and lighter, I find. Like the more I'm on this journey, the lighter I feel.
Mm.
So that's and then you don't realize how heavy you are until you're lighter. So whenever, like, as you're shedding these, you know, um, I don't know, they can be a bunch of different things, but as you're shedding these wounds, these conditionings, these limits, these perceptions, whatever you're shedding, that's not the real you. Um, yeah. The more you realize, the better you feel. The more you realize how I didn't even know that I was heavy before.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's interesting as you bring that up because when we're in the middle of something, we don't necessarily always know that we're in the middle of something until we get out of it. And then hindsight, you're like, oh, I was in. It's almost like a fish in water. A fish just knows that I'm living and this is my environment, is water. It doesn't stop and think, oh, I'm a fish and I'm swimming in water. It's like I'm
Mm.
just living. And I think a lot of us go through life like I'm just living until something happens that triggers us and it's like, oh, okay. Maybe I was on
Mm.
autopilot and now I have to switch into something different and recognize and notice where I was and where I am now.
Mm. Mm.
So,
But I find travel for me is yeah, it's a real transformative agent. It's inevitable, and so, I mean, that's a transformation. There can be very joyous transformations also. Um, not It doesn't necessarily have to be all about healing either. So,
True.
mm, mm.
So let's talk a little bit about well, I'd like to talk a little bit about your coaching, what you do with your coaching, so that people, if they feel like, yeah, this is something I really need, they can come find you. And then the other thing are some myths that you have around solo travel for women.
Okay. Um, so what would you like to start with? The coaching, or?
Yeah, let's
Okay. Yeah. So, I offer different kinds of coaching. So, around travel, I've got two coaching programs, if you want. They're one-on-one programs. One is if you're looking to have a transformative solo travel trip. So I really support you in planning the trip, and not necessarily not as much from a logistic standpoint as a travel agent would, but more in terms of readiness preparation, like emotional preparation, mindset preparation, and how to get the courage to actually go out and do it. So that's that's one program. The other program is if you would like to adopt a nomad lifestyle like I have, but it doesn't have to be the same way, the same way that I do it, but in the way that's right for you. I support you with that also. So everything that has to do about adopting a nomad lifestyle. And again, I work a lot around all of the conditionings, and I mean that we'll talk about that after, about all the myths and everything that kind of keeps us from doing those things if we really want them. But of course, this, you have to want to travel or have a passion for travel. The other coaching I do is really to help women, mostly women that I work with, but I also work with some men, is to release all of the conditionings that are really preventing them from living the life that their soul was meant to live. And I do that with a combination of more traditional coaching, but also energy work. And yeah, I also work with the chakras to free up the energy also, because so I really have a holistic approach, which really looks at um, you know, the body, the mind, the spirit, the energy, everything.
Right. Well,
So
you can't separate that.
no, no. And I also organize retreats. So that's if someone doesn't really want to go out on a solo travel trip or adopt a nomad lifestyle, sometimes the first step to actually traveling is to join a group. So I have, for example, in 2026, I have a Bali retreat coming up in May, and a Moroccan desert one in November.
Oh.
Mm. So, I mean, the unique thing about these is that it's a combination of workshops that I bring forth, and I work with something called inner dance, which is puts people in different states of consciousness. So whatever needs to be released, it can be released. But I also combine it with um, a, a local immersion. So, for example, in Bali, we have outings in water temples, with also doing purifications with Balinese priests. So I take advantage of the local culture and offerings that they have in the local area. Same with the Moroccan desert. Um, Part of the retreat is like a 3-day silent trek
Mm.
in the desert. And so, um, and doing things with the local people. So experiencing a transformation with um, yeah, the essence of the people that are in the country where we're in.
That sounds
Mhm.
lovely. So, if you
Yeah.
guys want to find out about the retreats, we are gonna um get all her information so that you can get more information. But before I do that, let's talk about some of the myths around women solo travel.
Yes. So in the book, before I get into my transformative stories and the stories of the other women, um, I talk about the myths around women solo travel. So, I mean, some of the myths are it's lonely. So, of course, a lot of women are afraid that they're going to be lonely and how am I going to be able to, plan my time and everything else. And for example, about the loneliness thing is that I find that when I'm alone, actually, well, first of all, when you're alone, you don't have to be lonely. You can be very, you can enjoy your own company.
Mhm.
And if you do want connection, because I'm the type of person, I love connection and I love alone time. So it's, you can decide that whenever, if you want connection, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can meet people. I mean, just going to a cafe and, almost instantly, whenever you go somewhere when you're alone and when you're in a foreign country, someone will approach you if you're open to it. Of course, you have to be open to it. Um, and you can join groups, you can go on day excursions, you can join a gym, you can go to a yoga class, or there's a bunch of ways that you can actually do that. One big one, and a lot of people talk about it, is how it's unsafe. Like I'm in Tunisia now, and I even had someone ask me, well, is that safe for a woman? Or, uh, well, first of all, most places are safe, and often you can be safer in a foreign country than, in your own neighborhood sometimes, or in your own city, depending on where you live. Uh, of course, the idea is not to, take unnecessary risks and things like that, but, um, you know, pick places where you know that it's safe. And often I find that, if you go on government websites and stuff, they have all these alerts on you shouldn't go here and you shouldn't go there. And when you're on site, it's actually not really like that. For example, I was on the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt, and people were telling me like, there's like these police stands everywhere, and well, it may be more dangerous towards some borders, but it's very safe in general in that area. So there's a lot of, people feeding on fear when in fact, a lot of places are quite safe actually, for women. So that's another one. So I give examples to totally dismantle those myths. One is people are worried about their health, like it's risky for my health. Well, I've found like health solutions in all sorts of different countries. Like I literally don't travel with any um, pharmacy or anything, because every country has their solution to, whatever may happen to you. If it's, if you scrape yourself, and they'll have something maybe very natural that they can put on you. Or hospitals are very professional. You would be surprised in certain countries where you wouldn't think they are. And so, yeah, and a lot of people are now even traveling for either medical tourism, they call it, or even wellness tourism. And so that's, yeah, the health risk is is really not a problem. Of course, unless you're predisposed, or you have something that prevents you from traveling. I mean, that's something else. But otherwise, yes. And I've had cures. For example, in Bali, I had this rash on my feet, and I went to a dermatologist, and I tried all the natural ways to get the rash to end, and it didn't work. So I went to see a dermatologist, and he had this machine. I couldn't believe the technology. It was like a little camera that was hooked onto his computer, and he magnified whatever was on my feet and said, "Oh, this is blah, blah, blah." And he prescribed this cream to me. And I even asked, like, I don't want cortisone or anything in it. He goes, no, and showed me what was in it. Went to the next door. They made the cream for me. And one day later, I had no more rash on my feet, and it didn't come back. So, I was very impressed by the technology, and you may not think that, but it's quite surprising. I
So,
don't know.
well, I
The
don't want to.
old one.
Oh, okay, because I was gonna say I don't want you to give away everything in the book because they can go
No,
read the book.
but just this last one about I'm too old. So that's another myth. And I mean, of course, I did this in my late 50s, and now I'm 65, and I'm still doing it. And so I don't buy that curve that says that after a certain age you start declining. I just don't buy it. To me, that's a mass conditioning. And I mean, there are ways that you can stay healthy for a long time. And even if it has nothing to do with health, you're just not too old to do anything. And there's a lot of judgment around that. People say, oh, you were mentioning about judgment before, and some people thought I was a bit crazy to do what I did. And so I had to deal with all of that judgment, but I had to start with not judging myself for it.
Yes.
And once I did that, it was fine. So mm,
So how can people find you?
they can find me on my website, pascalelandriault.com. They can find me on Facebook, on Instagram.
All under your name?
Yeah, under my name. Yeah, it's all under my name. And on LinkedIn, I'm actually going to start my own podcast on before the end of the month, which will be called She Travels, She Transforms. You can also find me on YouTube.
Okay, and can you spell your name so that
Yes.
I mean, it will
So,
be in the show notes, but if somebody's
yeah.
listening,
So Pascal is Pascale. So a lot of people say, well, that's a man's name, but it's without an E when it's an E at the end. It's feminine. So it's Pascale.
okay.
And my last name is Landriault, Landri. And this is where it gets tricky. Ault. So we don't pronounce the LT at the end.
Okay. Thank you so much. So you guys check out her book, and the book's on, well, it's on your website. Is it on Amazon as well?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's also available through bookstores. Um, so here it is.
Perfect.
And thank you so much, Sophie. It was very enriching to be on the show and speak with you. And yeah, I think and thanks for the work that you do in getting travel and transformation together.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to your book.
Great.